Hi, welcome to My Favorite Mistake. I'm your host, Mark Graban. Today, we are joined for a follow up discussion with our guest from episode 274. He is Dr. Thom Mayer. He is, among other things, the medical director for the NFL Players Association. That's, of course, the National Football League, NFL. USA Today named him as one of the 100 most important people in the NFL. So, Thom, it's fitting that I start the episode with a mistake, but welcome back. How are you?
Oh, great. That's no mistake. It's good to be back. I've gotten so much positive feedback from folks from episode 274. So thanks for the opportunity. As you know, I love to help share with folks and learn from folks. So privileged to be back on.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've shared. And that was a great episode. I encourage people to go find that. If they haven't already listened to it, there'll be a link in the show notes. But one thing that I was excited to be able to close the loop on here was something we talked about in your episode, was some experiments that were taking place for the 2024 season in the NFL, what was dubbed the dynamic kickoff, and what were, I think, some dual hopes of having more kickoff returns and having fewer injuries. So tell us, how did that quite literally play out this past
Yeah,
season?
it went quite well. We've had a low number of concussions. Now, of course, any concussion is serious. Our goal is zero,
Mm.
and we will continue to battle until we get that or approximate that, as the saying goes. But we did see fewer concussions. That was a combination of different helmets up here. You see my buddy Gene Upshaw. That helmet
Hmm.
even be allowed not only on the field but in the building. But yet that's what they played with. That didn't offer that much protection. But the kickoff experiment, as you say, and that's the right way to think about it, because what's an
Hmm.
experiment? It's a scientific hypothesis put to practical use, looking in this case at force vectors from our NFL players and trying to reduce the force. The equation is force equals mass times acceleration. We didn't change the mass. These guys are bigger than they've ever been. But the acceleration we changed a bit because their closing speeds are lower because they're not getting a big run
Hmm.
when they get in. So it's worked in that respect. And it's nice to see when the theory of science meets the practicality in a way that helps our players. And we talked previously about make failure your mistake. This has been a success, but we're going to continue to look at the details of what does that mean for punts, for example? What does it mean for other plays in which we're looking to reduce the concussive forces that are involved and the consequences for our players and their families?
Hmm.
You want to be able, as one of my players said to me, Doc, I got 3 girls. I want to be able to dance at their
Okay.
wedding, know who they are, and be able to give them away. So, the good news is it worked well. The bad news and the good news are usually the same news, which is the work continues.
Hmm. Yeah, and I saw some data that was reported in the media. I presume it's accurate that concussion rates on kickoffs dropped 43%. To your point, that's not zero, but a significant increase. And there were more kickoff returns, which I think was one of the I think dual objectives of giving a little more action. The return rates on kickoffs went up from 22% to 33%. There were more big returns. There were more touchdown returns, I think, at least from my viewing. So it seems like a really interesting challenge of continuing to work toward zero concussions without completely eliminating the kickoff. Are there going to be some future tweaks or
Oh, I'm
changes?
sure there will. 100%,
Yeah.
100%, because the work continues. And,
Mhm.
uh, if you look at the game and from a competitiveness standpoint, we spend a lot of time, particularly, our new executive director comes from a business background. So
Mhm.
the business of football, this is our men's love, their passion, their
Mhm.
deep joy, but it's also their business. And so the competitiveness that goes with it, the broader aspects of the game, um, those kickers are so talented that particularly in a dome stadium where there's fewer variables,
Mhm.
variables, wind direction, wind gusts, and all that, they can put the ball about any place they want.
Mhm.
And so they could put it in the end zone. They can drop it on the 2 yard line. Outside when, particularly in gusty stadiums and inclement weather and wet footballs and things like that, it's a little bit different story. But we've been pleased. At the same time, the work never ends in terms of
Mhm.
continuing to say, how can we make it better and safer?
And you mentioned the new helmets, and there was also the addition last year of the helmet caps that we saw more players utilizing and wearing, not just in practices but during games. It does make it a little bit more challenging to evaluate the results. Thinking scientifically when there's multiple variables being changed, but it seems like it's all reasonably in the right direction.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I've felt since day one the cap you're talking about, a technical name is a Guardian cap. Now, to
Mhm.
be clear, the Guardian caps in the NFL are not the same Guardian cap that's sold to high school, to college, and all that kind of thing. It's a very specific
Mm.
NFL. So if we look at the data, the scientific data, we all we can do is say in the National Football League, this is what occurred. Now, can you get a concussion with a Guardian cap? Yes. Two players last season who wore Guardian caps got concussions while wearing Guardian caps. Um, I have felt for a long time that it was a transition phase, that the advantages of the Guardian cap, the helmet manufacturers would see that and say, okay, we can build that feature in without having an add-on, a bolt-on, for lack of a better term. Not that they're bolted on, but that
Right.
if you will.
Mhm.
Indeed, that's happening. We now have so-called Guardian cap optional helmets, and what we mean by that is players who are mandated to wear Guardian caps in practice and in the preseason can be exempt from having to do that if they wear one of a relatively small 6 or 8 helmets that are where they've done that. The manufacturers built in those features so that when we test it in the lab, we find out it's got the same protection as if they had a Guardian cap on. So
Mhm.
again, the work continues. Helmets have come a long, long way, and we're
Mhm.
very proud of our biomechanical engineers, both from the NFL Players Association, Christy Arbogast and Barry Myers, as well as the league's folks, who have a very collegial and mutually respected relationship. So
Mhm.
more to come, but
Mhm.
all good news.
Yeah, and the other thing that stands out to me, and I think there are parallels to people who talk about employee safety, say in manufacturing, where I started my career, or patient safety in healthcare, where I've been working. That there are leaders who set that aspirational goal of zero injuries, zero harm, while realizing it's not an overnight flip the switch sort of thing. That a lot of organizations realize that a steady 40%, 50% increase year on year is still far better than other organizations. And it's that mindset, I think, that keeps us experimenting and trying new things instead of giving up to say, well, it's not possible.
Yeah,
Your
when I
thought?
work with the league, my motto is why not half? Why
Mhm.
not half as many concussions
Mhm.
next year? You've been on multiple work sites. I have as well. 240 days since an injury
Mhm.
or a time loss injury. Well, that sign's not going up anytime soon in an NFL locker room because
Yeah.
the injury rate in the NFL is 100%. But what about X number of games, X number
Mhm.
of days since we've had a concussion?
Right.
And so we've enjoyed how we've gotten where we've gotten, but the journey's not over. Nor
Sure.
should it be. Nor should it ever be.
Right. And maybe final question for you. And again, we're joined Dr. Thom Mayer again today. Are there any rule changes or equipment changes coming looking ahead to the 2025 season?
Not immediately,
Mhm.
other than Guardian Cap optional. I can tell you that shoulder injuries are up. And again, if you go back to force equals mass times acceleration, uh, our guys are bigger,
Mhm.
they're faster. We've lowered the targeting rules in terms of not targeting the head or hitting with the head. Well, the next thing down is this. So you're going to see a lot of work from us and shoulder pad manufacturers to say, look at Gene's shoulder pads. I mean, that's about 3 times the size of what an offensive lineman would now wear. And I wish I could tell you they're 3 times more protective, but they're just right now 3 times smaller. Yeah. But there's a wealth of things, form fitted. If you get ski boots, essentially you're getting a 3D printed so it fits your foot. Your right foot is different than your left foot. And people forget that. Like my eyes are not the same. No one's are, period. Plastic surgeons will tell you that. So, there's a wealth of scientific biomechanical engineering information and protections that we want to continue to say, how do we make the game safer and yet enjoyable for the players to play and the fans to watch?
Yeah. And for the benefit of those who are listening, when you said down to here, you're pointing to the chest or the whole kind of
the chest. I mean, it's the next place down, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you talk to our players, they'll tell you, their aiming point, targeting point, launch points, all these are terms that players can use from time to time. And certainly we do in looking at the science of things. Are things that are completely understudy. Think about the fact how many cameras there are in an NFL game now. We now have ability to see and analyze those videos in a way that really helps us understand the forces involved and force mitigation that we're involved with. Not force elimination, but force mitigation. So lots of work out that vector as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear about the ongoing progress and the ongoing work. I'll be excited to watch the upcoming season. And I know you and a great team of people are aligned on working on these important player safety issues. So thank you for that. Again, we were joined Dr. Thom Mayer, the medical director for the NFL Players Association, joining us again after his first appearance in episode 274. Thom, thanks again so much.
Of course. Good to see you, brother. Call me anytime.